Dr. Izzy Justice here. Welcome to the podcast, Chasing 10 Hertz. What is 10 Hertz? 10 Hertz is a frequency in the brain. The brain has electricity. We can measure it in a very similar way that you can see on the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. You're looking at a live EEG reading of my brain. We have asked people, as many other scientists have, when you are performing at your best, when you're in that zone state, in that flow state, in that high-performing state, what is it that you're thinking, feeling, doing? The answers, irrespective of any human endeavor, seem to be the same. I was calm. I was focused. Things felt slow. I was at peace. I was relaxed. I was confident. We have found a correlation between these attributes of when we are performing at our best, the best version of ourselves, and the frequency 10 hertz. In this podcast, we are going to explore videos of people who have done amazing things and look for those attributes, as well as have guests, average people, ordinary people, amazing people, and explore this concept of chasing 10 hertz. Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode number 6. This is the third in the trilogy where we talk about a workplace topic. Today's topic is collaboration. I want to make the claim that collaboration is really the centerpiece vehicle with which we make all progress. All of the other skills that we have, maybe communication skills, listening skills, conflict resolution skills, ideation skills, problem-solving skills, all of those skills, they have to come together at the table of collaboration. It is how we make progress with whatever we want to do, whether we're trying to solve a problem or coming up with a new idea. If you Google collaboration or YouTube collaboration, you're likely to get thousands and thousands of really good information out there. I've seen very few, there are a few out there, but very few that look at collaboration from a neuroscience perspective. And so my guest today is Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, and I am sharing his 2.5-minute clip on YouTube for a couple of reasons. One, he is responsible for a global company and brand, and they're constantly coming up with new ideas. So I ask you to suspend whatever bias you may have against him or his company and really kind of focus more on the substance of what he's saying. And again, if you've watched my other podcast, it's only 2.5 minutes long. I'll then come back afterwards and share a couple of slides. I know some of you are listening on Spotify. You won't be able to see them, but I will walk you through those slides and I'll offer you 2 very important tips in terms of integrating a brain perspective into this centerpiece workplace skill called collaboration. So let's take a look at this video.
What qualities do you look for in terms of what you think will produce effective collaboration, and what's your role as CEO in fostering that kind of collaboration?
You look for people that are not political, people that are not bureaucrats, people that really don't care who gets credit, people that can privately celebrate the achievement, but not care if their name is the one in the lights. That there are greater reasons to do things. You look for wicked smart people. You look for people who appreciate different points of view. You look for people that care enough that they have an idea at 11 at night and they want to call and talk to you about it because they're so excited about it and they want to push the idea further, and that they believe that somebody can help them push the idea another step instead of them doing everything themselves. I've never met anyone, at least in my life, maybe they exist, that could do something so incredible by themselves. In companies with global footprints and in our world, in Apple's world, the reason Apple is special is that we focus on hardware, software, and services, and the magic happens where those three come together. And so it's unlikely that somebody that's focused on one of those in and of themselves can come up with magic. And so you want people collaborating in such a way that you can produce these things that can't be produced otherwise. And you want people to believe in that.
Okay, I'll do a quick pause over here. Okay, so there you have it. Let's just summarize quickly what Tim Cook was talking about. He talked about people having ideas in the middle of the night and wanting to pursue that idea. He talked about not wanting credit for that idea. He talked about working with people in other parts of the business so that the magic can really happen. So the argument that I want to make is that collaboration doesn't necessarily happen in a conference room, on a Zoom call, at a retreat, on the beach, in a mountaintop. It's really happening in your brain. Your brain is the centerpiece of where the ideas are going to come from. So it's important to understand exactly how the brain works. I want to argue that the better that our brains are able to take a certain stimuli, and that stimuli can be a sensory stimuli, meaning you see something, you observe something in the normal course of life. It can be a cognitive stimuli. Someone is saying something, they're bringing to you a problem, or maybe a small piece of the idea. Either input, sensory or cognitive input, it's got to go somewhere in your brain. That's where the hard drive and the microprocessors of the brain are. That idea then has to go to your brain, and your brain has to find all of the relevant memories that you have had. Maybe it's an article that you read, a video that you saw. Maybe it's a past project that you did. Maybe it's even something that you don't remember, but you did years and years ago, but your brain will subconsciously retrieve it. So I want to argue that collaboration really is your brain's ability to associate a stimuli to what is already in your brain. That's a cognitive function. So let's talk a little bit about the brain. Let's go to this first slide over here. The brain ebbs and flows every second, depending on that stimuli. For example, if someone gives you a compliment, the odds are that you're going to feel pretty good. You might be more alert. You might be very thankful that someone said something to you, and suddenly the traffic in your brain becomes lower, and now you're able to access more parts of your brain, thus being able to collaborate more effectively. Maybe someone says something that you don't like, and your brain perceives it as a threat or a danger. Well, what happens then? Well, the traffic in your brain goes up. Your brain starts to process all kinds of other things to protect yourself, to safeguard yourself, thus creating roadblocks to the memories that you already have, to those skills and life experiences that you need, again, to bring to bear in this, vehicle called collaboration. So the language of red, yellow, green, and associating those colors with the state of your brain is a very simple way and even an accurate way. The higher the frequency in your brain, the higher the electricity in your brain, which means you're having more and more fearful or agitative or troubling thoughts, the less you'll be able to access your brain, the less you'll be able to come up with new ideas, the less you'll remember how to think of of a way to solve a problem that you have. Our normal brains are typically yellow. That means we're roughly operating at anywhere between 30 to 40% of what we're capable of. That's a normal brain on a normal day. And then when we're in that high performing state, when we feel really amazing, when you don't even know where these ideas are coming from, they're just flowing out of your mouth. And as soon as you have one, you instantly know who to call, who to text, and move this idea forward in the way that Tim Cook just talked about. That's a green brain. The traffic is extremely low. The roadblocks are low. That way you can access most parts of your brain. So I want to claim that being aware of the state of your brain is really the mechanism with which you can know how effective you can be at collaborating. If you're a manager or a leader, being aware of the state of the brain of the people that are in this room where you're trying to collaborate is also equally important. If people are yellow or red, you're likely to get a very average or a very poor outcome. So, getting people to that green state, that magical 10 hertz state that we keep talking about, is a centerpiece of effective collaboration. In this next slide, and I'll verbalize it to you, there is a way that you yourself can know, either personally or as a leader, where the state of your brain is. And you have to do this constantly because it'll change literally every second. So, what are some of the thoughts that you have? If you can monitor and inventory and label the thoughts that are going in your brain, they are a very good clue as to where your brain is, red, yellow, or green. Is it at 5%, at 40%, or 80% of its capacity to collaborate, to solve a problem, to ideate, to think of new ways to do something? So if you're having a thought that says, I better keep my mouth shut, or this is terrible, that is very, very far away from that magical 10 hertz. You're probably in that 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 hertz. And you can see that at that stage, your ability to be collaborative or have a successful outcome is greatly diminished. It's diluted. You have the capacity, but your brain cannot access it. Now, if you have more of, the average kinds of thoughts like, I don't understand, this is confusing. Well, that's typically your yellowish kind of a brain state, and your ability to be effective is in that 30, 40% range. If you have thoughts like, I love this, I'm stimulated, I can really follow what's going on, I want to say something, I feel like I can help, I feel like I have a good team of people, I'm not threatened, well, that's the magical 10 hertz. So knowing where your thoughts are is a clue to where that needle is in your neuro speedometer. Are you red, yellow, or green? And if you really want to make an impact, you have to move that needle towards green. And if you're a manager or a leader, you can listen to these types of comments. The verbal and the nonverbal cues that people give in a collaborative environment are very powerful. They will tell you, these nonverbal and verbal cues, what the state of the environment is. Is it red, yellow, or green? Very little progress to no progress will be made in red. Matter of fact, you're likely to regress and make things worse. An average amount of progress will be made when you're yellow, and you can significantly enhance the outcome of your collaboration if you just make the effort to make people feel a lot more green. Now, you may say, well, how do I get to green? How do I start the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting, or the session, or whatever it is that you have going on? How do I get to green? So think of athletes. One of the things that athletes do, and coaches do, and assistant coaches do, and teams do is they warm up. So they might warm up physically. They'll go do some stretch work, some activation work, and they might hit some few shots very similar to the ones they're about to hit, depending on the sport that you're playing. So I recommend that you warm up the brain. If you have a collaboration session, let's say between 10 o'clock, that starts at 10 o'clock and ends at 12, maybe spend the first 10, 15 minutes and warm up the brain. How can you warm up the brain? What if you ask everybody that's there, hey, tell me one of the best ideas you've ever heard anywhere. What do you think led to that idea happening? Or what is one of the best ideas you've had in the last 5, 10 years? Tell us how you came up with that idea. How did you forward that idea? I've always believed that our past positive memories and experiences are some of the most underutilized assets that we have. So by triggering them, we can warm up a very similar thinking thoughts, thinking processes, neural pathways in the brain. And when we share that, everybody else then listens to that input and they too are being triggered. In other words, we are stretching the right types of neurological functionality that we need to have a very effective collaboration. So, in summary, I want to argue that collaboration is entirely a cognitive function. Having a simple language like red, I'm at 5%, yellow, I'm at 40%, green, I'm at 80%, is a very simplistic way to say, how effective am I going to be? How effective is this session going to be? How effective is the team going to be? It's not a judgment, it's just a reporting. By measuring or monitoring or being aware of what the thoughts are that either you're having or that is being shared verbally and non-verbally, you can get some really good clues as to how effective the session is going to be. And then finally, think about a really good warm-up. Warm up your brain, because that's the tool that you're going to need to perform at that very high level, that magical 10 hertz. And I hope you'll use these tools to have a very effective next collaboration session.